Hi, y'all. I know that I have talked multiple times about my therapist, Randy, on this podcast. Dustin likes to call him our life coach. And as a result of a few people asking about Randy, I have a surprise for you. Randy is here in the flesh to talk to me about all kinds of things. I have spent so many hours with Randy that I could not even begin to scratch the surface of the wisdom that he holds and the way that he is able to speak to people wherever they are in life. But I hope that this is a good starting place for anybody who is just looking for some answers, for some direction, or just for some science between how to navigate past traumas and future things. He has a book coming out in the future called It's Not a Bear. And so he talks about anxieties and different escalation, the way that the brain escalates and how we can sometimes think it's a bear in front of us when it's really just a squirrel. And he talks about not only why we go to those things, but how to differentiate between them. So I am really, really excited that you get an hour with him. And there'll be more to come. I've already asked him to come and do a marriage one, so I'm going to have to drag Dee back in here because Dee and Randy and I have a very fun and funny dynamic. But in the meantime, enjoy the amazing Randy as he talks about It's Not a Bear. Randy, thank you for this.
Oh, this is fun.
I'm so excited right now.
Well, I hope it lives up to that excitement.
Oh, okay. So a short story or a
Yes.
long story short for you. I've mentioned you on this podcast multiple times.
Okay.
Because happy sad has been a theme, that you taught Dustin and I.
Right.
Happy sad. And multiple things as in conscious, subconscious, infantilizing. There's so many things that we've gone through together. And I guess to start the start of our relationship, I came to you quite some time ago, very wary.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember how wary I was?
I do.
And I came to you with, in your words, pretty much burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to handle some traumas from years ago. And to your credit, I just want to preface, and then I want to hear all that you have to say about so many things. And I want to do, okay, so I have two things I want to do. I want to hear a lot about It's Not a Bear and handling anxiety, handling trauma, but I also want to hear about marriage. So will you come back and do a marriage one?
Absolutely.
Okay, because maybe
yes.
we'll drag Dee in here for that one.
I like it. Yes.
But I came into you and I was a little counselor burnt out, like I had shared with you before, because I had, people recommend and mentors of ours have recommended, like, hey, you guys just need to do checkups, like. Don't get help when you're in a bad position, right? Like get help before and do checkups and yada, yada, yada. And so I had gone through like a couple different things, as you know, and you can speak freely about me and our talks because I can edit anything I want.
Okay. That's good.
So, yeah.
Okay,
So don't
you
feel...
need to edit a lot then for me.
Yeah.
'Cause who knows what I'll say.
No, so don't feel like you can't like just talk freely because like
Sure.
anything I don't want to be said about
Perfect.
me and our experiences, I'll edit. But
Perfect.
I know I had gone to some people and it just was not what I was looking for. And a lot of it felt to me, and this is, you know me. So I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody, but it felt like shallow therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like I went in with these deep like questions and deep needs. And they were like, well, what's your love language? And I'm just like, I'm a believer in the love languages, but I can read the book. I can read the love language book. like, I need you to get in my brain, right? So there was that experience with what's your love language and what's your whatever. And again, not dissing the love languages, love it, but I can do that myself. Then I go to somebody else and I'm just like, I'm flailing a little. I'm feeling like a lot of pressure. You know me, I'm navigating motherhood, married to a, what do you call Dustin? A delusional by faith man of God.
Yes.
I am pastoring a church and I'm a human all at the same time. And I've got a lot. And then I'm slowly accumulating some, I would say, trauma. I don't know. That might be a little extreme for it. But so then I go to somebody else and he just whips out the Bible, which I love the Bible. So not saying I don't,
right,
or that it doesn't have power, but he's just like, well, I read in my quiet time this morning in Ephesians, like, let me just read this to you. And I'm like, I can read Ephesians. I know exactly where Paul was when he wrote that letter. I can exegete that book. So I know my love language and I know Ephesians, and it just felt like I had these deep questions about my brain and about myself and how I relate with the world, with God, with my husband, with my kids, with my family, and with ministry. And I couldn't find somebody to really tackle the deep aspects of what I was looking for. And then we found Randy.
Oh.
And I love it because you call me on my crap. And I love it.
I am direct.
You are direct, and you call Dust on his crap, which I love even more. But I feel like when I came into you, you really discerned spiritually what I needed. And I didn't need the second chapter of Ephesians read to me. I needed to really be seen, which you are a professional at, and which I would love for you to dig into that whole thing about seeing people and where they're at and the ICU thing. But all that to say, it's been a really, really good journey with you. And I came in with so many things. I weary with traumas I feel like I couldn't shake. And this is the thing that surprised me. And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and let you talk for the rest of the time. But I came in with specific things that I thought were my problem. And you didn't care about those at all.
Yes, correct.
Right? You did not care about any of those things. And that alarmed and impressed me.
Wow.
Because you didn't ask about my childhood. You didn't ask about, later we got into some of that good stuff. But in the beginning, you didn't care about the current thing I was dealing with. You said to me, there will always be hard situations. There are always going to be hard people. What you need to learn to do is manage it. And I found my place.
Oh, sweet.
And then, there's way too much that we've all been, the three of us have been through together to even get into right now.
Right.
But I came in initially, and what I want to start with, and then wherever it takes us is great. But I came in a little anxious. Obviously, I already said weary and burnt out, and I'm paranoid. And you told me about it's not a bear. Can you unpack that with as much time as you want?
Well,
this changed the way I see things.
Oh, sweet. Just before we hit It's Not a Bear, let me put a little context to all that you said in one way.
Please do. I would love it.
We'll get right into it. But
yep.
First, when I look at people and how God's made us is what I look at. And what I look at is the fact that we are made of two parts. We're made of that eternal spiritual soul part that's in God's image, that is made of four parts of it. The four parts in the soul that's eternal and will go with us is our spirit, which communes with God. It's our personality that's God-given. It is our heart, where our passions reside, that gives us drives and purpose. And it's our mind. And our mind is different than our brain. Our mind is what we focus on, fill it with. What are we filling and focusing our mind towards? And those are the 4 parts that make up our soul. We're not going to talk about those, though. That could be a whole 2, 3, 4 hours itself. But soul care is critical. The stronger your soul is, the less shame you feel.
Okay.
And when you have a strong soul, you then make decisions and discernment, and you come from wisdom because you're coming from your spirit with God, the communes with God. You're coming from your mind that's filled with good things, such as the Bible and good books. You come from your heart, which is your passions that God's laid there for your purpose. And you come with your personality that God's given to you and said it is good. So when we come from that eternal side, we come with discernment and wisdom. So what I looked at with you and is your soul, and your soul was hurting. It had not been fed well. That doesn't mean not the scripture. Your mind was good, but the total soul as a whole was what was hurting. So that's the infinite side. The finite side is what we're going to talk about right now. That's the brain, the body, the organism, our hunger. Sometimes we just refer to that as the flesh. And it's more than just kind of as we've seen as the flesh. It is emotions. It is drives. It is eating. It is touching. It's drugs, alcohol. It's all those things. And what's happening is the flesh side, the finite side, the brain side is trying to find comfort. So, or safety. So what happens, we're going to back all the way up to pregnancy. When we're in the womb, God has made us so beautifully that in the womb, the brain, which is more like a computer, it's looking for danger or safety. That's what it's doing. And it's processing that and determining what is safe, what is danger.
It's primitive.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just stimulus response kind of things. And it builds categories based on the information it's getting from the body. So in the womb, if it's uncomfortable, the brain says, ooh, the body's hurting, kick. And that tries to make mom move or her move to get out of the pain. That's the beginnings of discomfort, which is part of the category of danger. So the brain's constantly evaluating. Birth comes out, the brain's saying, ooh, I don't like this. It isn't comfortable. Crying, kicking. We wrap them, clean the little kid, put them in mom's arms or dad's arms. And the brain says, oh, I like this. This is good. Hugging, touching, comfort. We have found that in the womb, if there's a lot of fighting and yelling, the brain screams and reacts to that and doesn't like violence or intensity. So that's why playing wonderful worship music, the classics, actually helps to calm the brain. So calm, quiet space. So the brain is constantly going for danger or safety. Coming out of the womb, it is. Those are simple definitions or simple processes that the brain's working on when it first comes out. It's
and you're
looking
saying
for safety
this is
or
what
danger.
we carry through our whole life.
We carry this through our whole life. So
danger, safety, danger, safety. Okay.
On the brain. It then starts developing complex definitions of safe and danger. And the danger may be rejection, abandonment, insecurity. It may be a teaching that says everything has a place and everything will be in its place. That teaching becomes almost a danger because if it's not in its place, we may get in trouble, yelled at. And so the brain starts categorizing those things as danger. So the brain builds these tanks, these storage tanks that it fills throughout life full of experiences and beliefs and training and teachings that are all saying these are danger. As it fills those, then when anything comes along that's similar to that experience, it puts it in that storage tank and it draws energy from that storage tank and says danger, that sends a signal out to the body and says, go get help, run away, find someone to love you, cover it up with coping.
So the reactions to that are different.
The reactions are the processes seeking to find comfort, or safety. And they can be a myriad of reactions.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
They're based on personality,
but the root is
situation,
feeling danger.
But it's a reaction.
Okay.
So the brain is a reaction to perceived danger.
Perceived. Yep.
And that's wherein comes it's not a bear.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all sorts of, and I'll get to it's not a bear in just a second, but what that is
this is great. Please.
You have all these storage tanks that are different ones that have been generalized throughout your whole memory system. And they have categorized, like if I got bit by a dog as a little kid, I'm going to say dogs are dangerous. It goes into that category. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if I don't heal or deal with that memory and properly process it, then I maybe become afraid of squirrels because they're bushy and they remind me of a dog. And so I start generalizing this storage tank to include anything furry, anything that growls, anything that looks at me with teeth. And now, 40 years later even, my brain doesn't know time. So it takes the experience of a 3 year. No, it brains, the brain part, the reactionary part, says that incident that I had with the dog biting me happened today.
Just happened. Oh my goodness.
And when we haven't resolved it and we get triggered by something, it brings it up to life like a movie.
Like it's happening now.
And it's a now. Yes. And as we experience it in the now, we don't know what to do because our conscious processing mind and the circumstances in the now say, no, it's a squirrel. No, it's a little puppy. But our brain is screaming, I don't care. It hurts so badly that we are not going to rest. So the brain sends out the signals to the fight, flight, or freeze response.
Fight, flight, or freeze. Okay.
Freeze is when you're absolutely overwhelmed and you can't move because everything got so frozen and so intense with the danger. So we freeze like a deer in the headlights and we can't make decisions. So trying to make a free throw to win the game, it may freeze us up and we can't throw it because we're frightened that we'll miss it and mess up. Trying to make a putt for 12 inches, 12-inch putt to win my game against Dustin. I may freeze up and miss the putt. That's the danger of failure. So the category of failure is triggered when I'm having to make the putt. The brain sends a signal out and tightens the body up to fight or run, flight. And so I cannot function as well.
Okay. Yes, and is this, so when we go into that mode, our brains go into the mode of fight, flight, or freeze, it is normally based on something that has happened previously.
Yeah, because if we don't know that a rattlesnake is dangerous, we're going to go up and pick it up.
Right. Okay. Right.
If you don't know something's dangerous, you just go touch it. A wire that's electrical wire. If you don't know what electricity is, you'll touch the wire and go, oh, well. But if you've ever seen a rattlesnake and you've been taught, you run like Dickens the other way.
Right.
And what's beautiful about how God's made us, the brain's working properly, but it's overworking because we haven't resolved those historical experiences. And the brain is on steroids and it's going hard. And the problem is those memories, we may not even remember consciously some of those memories that the brain is already cataloging as dangerous. And so we have
this conscious, subconscious thing, or is that
it is exactly that.
Okay. Can you go into that?
You have 3 parts. They're kind of arbitrary. There is no such thing as conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, but we refer to them. And the meaning behind it is a conscious means you have immediate access to that memory. So if I'm talking about you and I trying to get together and talk today, you and I can talk about the difficulties we had getting connected and hooked up. And we can laugh about that and recall it. But if we talk about what we did a year ago today at this time, we may have to look at calendars, computers, or phones, talk to each other, but we can recall it. That would be the subconscious because it's there, but it takes a little bit of triggering and stimulation to get to it. The unconscious is something that you almost cannot recall at all consciously and bring it out and talk about it.
We can't make ourselves.
Correct.
Bring it up. Okay.
If you do, it's really hard and it takes a lot of effort and time and to get to the unconscious, but it's there. So that unconscious is still being accessed by the brain for the danger
for the
or
triggers.
safety. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So we may not even remember some of the dangers that the brain is accessing to protect us. Now, if we had to keep everything we've ever experienced in our conscious awareness, it would kill us.
No.
You couldn't function. So the brain works properly on the danger. It would be like driving. And as we're driving, if we see a flash of something to our side, we're hitting the brakes before we even consciously process what the flash is. And it may be a piece of paper. But if we aren't reacting that quickly, we could actually be hitting a little kid that's running into the street if we have to wait till we've processed what it really is.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful when it's working with the proper dangers. Exactly. But when it's unconscious things that are like time bombs sitting there. So an example that's not real. So this is a made up example. I am over 65 and my grandfather, who I was very, very close to, died at 65 of cancer. So I was in his hospital room. So was my dad, my brothers, our family. We were all there when he died and we all cried. We grieved properly. And I was only in high school. So that's 50 years ago. And we grieved properly. We talked about it. We loved him, but he was 65 when he died. Well, as a minister, I go to hospitals all the time, both for my own sake, as well as praying for others and caring for others. I've never been anxious or afraid of a hospital, even for my own surgery. But I could walk into the hospital when I turned 65 and actually feel some anxiety because the brain will have associated my age, a hospital, and the memory of my grandfather passing and be able to trigger me to have anxiety. It will be sending a signal out to the amygdala, the hypothalamus, triggering those to escalate and say, danger, get on alert. There's a problem here. The brain, that danger brain, reptilian brain is stupid. It cannot process facts. It just is protecting.
It's protecting us.
It is protecting. It's beautiful in the right order, out of order. It would do that. So I'd be anxious going into a hospital, not because there was anything to be anxious over, but the brain didn't know how to process through that. That was an event from 50 years ago. It's okay. Nothing's wrong. So what we're doing and what I did is I looked at you and was talking to you and I, with Dustin or anyone, we're looking and saying, okay, how's the soul? That's good. We can strengthen that some, but how's the brain? The brain is on overload. That's burnout. You've been in a hypervigilant state instead of in a calm, resting state. When we live in a hypervigilant state and we're always looking for danger because the brain doesn't relax, we get no sleep. We don't get to recuperate. We don't get to fulfill our body and come back with vigor. And we're no longer vigorous. So we have to look and say, okay, why is the brain at a hypervigilant state? What is triggering it to be in a danger mode? So we start looking to say, what are all the danger signals? Now, what we do, I have 5 phases on It's Not a Bear. And I'm going to share those right here because it fits, if that's okay. And then you can ask clarifying questions as we go. The first phase that we need to go through to be able to find our hypervigilance is we need to recognize our reactions. Okay, those are awareness. We often call it mindfulness. You recognize your reactions. There's 3 different areas you want to recognize your reactions on. Your physical reactions, so your heart beating fast.
This was really helpful for me.
Your throat tightening up. You can feel it in your mouth going dry, your hands tightening, your heart beating faster. Those are all physical reactions that are signals saying there's something going on and the brain is reacting and preparing you to fight, flight, or freeze.
Okay.
So number 1, you want to practice recognition of reactions on a physical level, PET, P-E-T, physical and emotional level. So what are my emotions? And we need to become proficient at recognizing emotions because the emotions are signals. They're not always accurate, but they're signaling that the brain has recognized a danger.
A danger. Okay, this is so good, Randy.
So my anxiety going into the hospital, which is a made-up story again, but my anxiety is saying, there's a problem. If I'm sensitive to the anxiety, I could take a breath, slow it down, which are the next steps I'll go over, and start asking, what's anxious? There's nothing here that's dangerous. And as I go into that, I can then start remembering, my grandfather died at 65. And I can allow my sadness to exist instead of my anxiety. Anxiety is saying, I don't know what the problem is, but I got to prepare you to run.
Sadness can be dealt with.
Sadness, I can cry, hug each other, talk about memories and let it go and know that he's in heaven and I've seen him. It was 50 years ago and I love my grandfather and what a great experience we had. And let the sadness go.
Can I ask a question about this one? Because I don't know that there's any, you're always open to my questions.
Yes. I love your questions.
I know you do. I'm just so glad Dustin's not here, so I get you all to myself. He's going to totally crash our next session. He's going to be so jelly. Okay, so because I feel like monitoring emotions is one of the hardest things.
Yes.
To do. And because it really, I just think back to when I was pregnant with my kids. And because you know me, I'm cerebral. I'm not highly emotional. But I had a taste of what it was like to feel your hormones kind of go nuts. And it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And it was real. 100% real. Like I was ready to kill people.
Correct.
When I was pregnant, right? So how in this number 2 state of recognizing emotions and maybe you're going to get to that later, but how do we monitor that?
Well, the first part of monitoring is you're giving and letting yourself know what emotions are. So there's a lot of different products and processes out there. There's different types of faces. If you look at a smiley face, sad face, all those are all emotions. To practice saying every day, what are my emotions? What am I experiencing right now emotionally? And it will also help you to enjoy the positive emotions.
Yeah, okay.
So the more
some are good.
Some are great. And even the negative ones are valid. Okay. I mean, the fact that I cried for my grandfather's death, the sadness is a great emotion.
Okay, that's
it's a beautiful emotion.
Yeah, okay.
Jesus went to raise Lazarus from the grave and he wept.
Yeah.
That was sad. He was weeping. He joined them. So most emotions are just a form of information to tell us something is going on. The more we're aware of it, the more we gather information to make a more intelligent decision on the circumstances. Are they dangerous or are they safe?
That's great.
Is it really a bear? That's what we're going to ask here on the next step.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So the more you know your physical reactions, the more you know your emotional reactions and embrace them, then the more you can ask the question on the reality phase, which is second in a minute, is it a bear? But if you don't know there's those, you cannot answer that question intelligently.
So
because emotions will confuse you.
You cannot approach your situation or circumstance truly intelligently if you have not been through the other steps.
No.
Okay.
You cannot. You have, if you're in shock, like you see someone from an accident or a horrible situation, they're in shock. They can't process anything. Their brain shut down. Their emotions are numb. And you tell them, take a breath, move your right foot back, bend your knee, hold my hands, sit down. You get very specific because their brain cannot process and their emotions are numb. When we're in a dangerous format, we go into tunnel vision and our brain is shutting down from processing clearly.
Yep.
The more we embrace our physical reactions, our emotional reactions, and the thought reactions, the more we can start in keeping our brain engaged. And that's the fourth step. And I'll go to that one in a minute.
Okay.
So PET, physical, emotional, and thought reactions. Your thoughts are anything like, I am scared. I am stupid. No one likes me. When I start knowing my physical, emotional, and thought reactions, then I can ask the question, which is the second phase, reality phase. So the first one's recognize reactions. Second phase is the reality phase. Is it a bear? So now when I know my reactions, I can say, okay, is it life or death? If it's not life or death, then why am I reacting so intensely? So what number between 1 and 10, 10 being a bear chasing me, what number am I experiencing overall in my physical, emotional, and thought reactions? If I'm responding a 5 or above and it's not life or death, chances are the situation is not a bear. It is not that severe.
Okay.
So then,
okay, can I ask you?
Please do.
When you say it's a bear, or is it life or death? Is that only like physical life or death, or is that like completely collapsing under the weight of the world, right? Or like,
well, that's a great question. We may collapse under the weight of the world because of what I call add-ons.
Oh yeah. Okay. I remember add-ons. Yes.
Okay. So add-ons.
Yep. Can you talk about that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
The reality question, when we notice that we're a 1 to a 10 on our reactions and we say, is it really life or death? Is it a bear? No, it's not. That I'm feeling like a 7, 8, or 9, but the situation really is a 2 or a 3. It's not going to change. I have no power over, pandemic, politics. I really have minimal power. I'm praying. I'm doing what I can, but God is in charge. I can look at it and say, is it really a life or death at the moment? No. Could it become that? Well, yeah, but it's not at the moment. So
at
God,
the moment, okay.
It's a 2.
Okay, because this is where I have a hard time, Randy, and you know me. It's a 2, but I'm always predicting the 9.
Yes. So now that's add-ons. So add-ons take the actual situation. That's a 2 or 3. Now, if it's really a 7, 8, 9, then we need to do something about it because it is danger. A car's coming at me. A bear is truly chasing me.
Right.
I need all my adrenaline and all that God's given me so I can fight or flight or whatever I need to do to get freeze and have the bear run by me or something.
Mine is freeze under my covers for a month.
So add-ons are what we add to the situation to make it go above the 2 or 3 that the reality is. So what are the add-ons?
I am a perfectionist.
Yeah, there you go. You're jumping in perfectly. Now,
I am
add-ons
so perfect at this.
Add-ons come in 3 fashions, 3 different categories themselves, okay? They come in what you just said, personality. So if one's a perfectionist, if it's not done right, they're going to add to the situation and make it feel like it's life or death. I didn't do it well enough. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be abandoned. I'm going to be a failure. So we take the situation when none of that is true. Who's going to hate you or reject you? Come on. If God the Father says you're awesome, then who is everyone else in the world? If God hugs me and says, I love you, what does it matter if someone else doesn't like me? But see, that's a reality. But my add-on of my personality intensifies my reaction. If I'm a people pleaser like Peter, Peter was a people pleaser. So Jesus told him, you're going to deny me. And here he goes around the fire. He swears he won't. We know he has courage because he takes his sword out and cuts the ear off of the centurion.
Right.
But he goes around the fire and they say, hey, you're one. He goes, oh, no, not me. No. He wants their acceptance and approval. So he denies his belief system because he's actually escalated and feeling like his life is at stake. Maybe not literally, but at least rejection is. So personality will add to the circumstances of the situation to make it feel more intense than it really is.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Then you have current life stressors add to the current situation. So pandemic, it's squeezing down on all of us. We're all feeling the pressure, whether you fully engage in the belief that it's real or you think it's not real. Either way, the pressure is condensing on us in such a way that we're reacting with anger. We're yelling at each other. We're not listening to each other. We're not showing each other love. Jesus says, be known by your love. But when we're in reactionary mode and we're feeling things are a 10 because there's some real serious things going on. But they're not life or death. My God's bigger than that.
But this is a current stressor add-on.
That's a current
To the-
stressor
okay.
add-on.
Okay.
If I have a test I'm going to take, that could be a current stressor. If I have kids to take to various activities and get to the doctor, those are all cumulative stressors. And then we react with protective reactions of anger, denial, fight or flight. But there's no bear, but we're acting like it's a bear. We're reacting in that vicious kind of reactive fashion. So the three, again, personality, current life stressors, and the third one is historical issues. So we're pulling from our tank of history. Could be trauma. If I've been beat by my father, then I'm afraid of authority figures. So authority figure says, I don't like what you did. I'm going to experience that as if they yelled at me. Because I added to the situation far beyond what the situation was calling for. And so you go historical, personality, or current life stressors. Those are all add-ons. So what we do in reality is it really a bear? No. It's a 2, but it feels like a 10. Those are add-ons. What were the add-ons? Can I identify them? No, I can't yet. So I need help identifying what they are, because some of them are unconscious. We can't even see them. Some are conscious. We can identify. When we divide and conquer or separate out, we can deal with each of the issues by themselves easier than when they're all put together and I'm overwhelmed as if it's all one event.
That's great. Yes.
Okay.
Because it's that's why we want to lay in bed all day.
Yes.
Is because it's just too much.
It's overwhelming.
I've got my personality, I've got my history, and I've got my, what was the second one?
Current life stressors.
Current life stressors.
Yep.
It's just like, okay, so you're saying, and how do we separate them?
And the separation comes by going back to recognizing your reactions.
Okay.
Again, physical, emotional, and thoughts, PET. Yep. And as you start asking that and recognizing that you're reacting, you can start looking and seeing, oh, that's my personality. Oh, that's my history. Oh, that's my current life stressors. Oh, that's what I was taught. Now, most of the time, these 3 areas don't just jump at us and we know what they are immediately.
We have to dig.
It is. It's hard work. We dig. Peter had to dig to find out that he was a people pleaser.
Yeah.
At the end of his ministry, he said, hang me upside down. I don't care what people think.
Yep.
Paul learned to be content.
Yep.
His contentment he had to learn. So that meant he was driven to be a Pharisee of Pharisees.
Yep.
So that was probably partially his personality.
He was a type A obsessive compulsive, right?
Oh, he had to be. Obsessive compulsive, concrete, linear.
Yep. The whole thing.
The whole thing. And probably driven by even culture, which is partially history. So he had, he was horrible to be around. He was obnoxious probably at that point. But he learned to be content. So we know he can learn. Now, I'm going to throw something in real quick here that just information that's fun.
Yes.
Jesus says, peace I give unto you, not as a world giveth I unto you. That peace is from our soul, our eternal side. It's not to our brain or our finite side.
Yep.
We tend to put it over on the finite side. It's like, no.
It should be experienced in the emotions.
Yes, in our soul.
That's
in
what
our
we
being.
Think.
Yes.
Right?
We do. We think it should calm us, make everything. And it does.
Right.
It is calming, but it doesn't stop the danger of a bear. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said our God can save us, but even if he doesn't, we won't bow.
Yep.
See, so I'm sure they were afraid. I'm sure they were having all sorts of emotions, but they came from their soul to make a decision. So when we come from our soul, we find peace, we find comfort, but it's different than as the world. The world looks at it from the finite side, money. Give me comfort this way. Give me comfort by all these external, which I like. I'm not opposed to, mind you. I like those.
Right.
But the soul should be the source of our peace. And then our contentment will follow. Okay. But that's another whole discussion on the soul. I'm just introducing it here as
so
for
good.
Thought.
Peace and contentment are different and come from different areas.
They do. Contentment is the finite. Peace is the infinite. So, that's What we're talking about is the finite side today. That's what we're focusing on.
How to dig into this and make
and
it.
it's a practice. It's a skill. It's a habit.
Yeah.
This is not something that you attain merely because we talked about it once and you had some awareness.
Right. Okay.
Which is why
I think that's really, it's hard to hear because it's going to take work, but it's freeing to hear because work will work.
Correct.
Well, I remember me asking you like after our like 15th hour together, you and Dustin and I remember telling you like, I just wish I could live in this office forever because it was, and you said to me, you can.
Yes.
If you do the work.
You will take the peace and the comfort and the safety with you.
Yeah. But I got to do the work. Go.
And we have to do the work.
We have to do the work, yeah.
When we do the work on those first two phases I just talked about, recognizing reactions and asking the reality questions. Is it a bear? I'm a child of God. I have value. Is it dangerous? When I'm doing the proper work in those, then as I de-escalate, love languages, communication theories, the Bible verses, all personality have power.
Tests. Right. Okay.
All of those have power then. But if I'm escalated, those don't work because my brain's escalated and they can't seep into my being. I can't let them work.
Yeah.
So the third one is relax.
Okay. Yeah. I like that one.
Right. Exactly. But you practice it. It needs to practice meditation, praying, talking with God, calmly sitting at the trees and enjoying his beauty, the nature that he's given us, the birds flying. And we start having this deep breathing, calming our brain, calming our body, calming our mind, calming us down, and reminding ourselves it's not a bear. God is with us. God loves me. I'm a child of God. We have to practice relaxation techniques or we can't employ them when we're escalated. So recognition is a practice. We practice it with simple things, the things that bother me as a 2 or a 3, because then when I'm a 7 or an 8, I can recognize my PET. I practice reality questions of, is it a bear? And is it really that bad? And what are my add-ons when they're 2, 3, or 4? Because again, my brain can still work on those. I'm not out of control yet. And then when it's a 7, 8, or 9, I have the skill to employ it.
Yeah.
Relaxing is the same way. It's meditation. It's scripture knowledge. It's talking with God. It's walking in the morning and calmly enjoying the beauty in God's presence. And I take that relaxation and then I know how to access it when I'm escalated.
The numerical values you shared with us, I think are so helpful in that, is this a 1 or a 10? And you even did this with me in your office. You were like, how do you feel now? Well, I'm an 8. And then 2 hours later, how do you feel? Well, I'm a 2, right?
Yes.
And so and this goes for marriage, but I think it also goes for, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it also goes for life, right? Like
absolutely.
And placing the numerics for my brain, because I'm not ready. I don't really want to like unpack my emotions verbally.
Right.
That's not my jive. I will do it if I have to, but I don't really want to. But the numeric thing really helped in that. And Dustin and I to this day will be like, hey, this is a 5 for me. Well, this is a 9 for me, or this is a 2. Can you unpack that numerical value and how we can like assess situations and like communicate with people that love us?
Yeah. But that's a skill that takes time to practice. So I want to emphasize, I know you said that, but I want to emphasize someone isn't always able to just immediately do it. You're stopping to take stock of your PET. What is my physical reaction? Oh, I'm tight. Oh, so you start by just describing what you're experiencing in your physical, emotional, and thought reactions. And then that will help you determine, oh, boy, I'm at an 8. I'm already ready to run. I'm ready to fight.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm ready to post on Facebook. I'm ready to.
I'm ready to call you out. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yep.
And so I then start being able to know where I fall on the chart of 0 to 10, bear chasing me, by when I'm aware of my body, my emotions, and my thoughts. Because then I can say, oh, I'm escalated at a point where I'm not calm and at peace. So I'm escalated. And I'm a 5 or a 6. And And then as I look at reality, it's not a bad situation. Why am I 5 or 6?
Because the add-ons.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's the practice. To get the numbers, don't worry if you're accurate or not accurate. Just give a number, because sometimes I will give a number like I'm an 8. And as I think about it, I go, no, I'm really only a 4. I had a moment there. Or I was a 4 and I was in denial and I'm really an 8. It just, I'm not having adrenaline, but my brain's racing and saying, I don't like this person. They're going to hurt me. So the thought is already telling me there's danger, but my body hasn't caught up to it yet. So you want to have all 3 of those so they can work together to tell you what your real number is. Passive. If I'm being overly passive and that's not my normal personality, that's my physical and emotional responses telling me I'm escalated and frightened of something.
Okay, so can I ask you, when someone's escalated?
Yes.
Namely me.
All of us.
Okay. All of us. Oh, Randy, that's just like you. I should include us all. Okay, so when we're escalated and we feel PET that we're in an 8 or a 9, which I've talked to you about a couple things that can trigger an 8 or a 9 in me.
If it feels like it because someone's rejecting me or calling me names. The old adage, names, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. There's a certain reality to that. Now, obviously, it's not good to call names. It's inappropriate and can cause emotional harm. But it won't kill me. So it's a 6, not an 8. And why is it hurting me so much is a question to look into and say, oh, I've been called these names. Or I have a belief in me that I'm no good. And this is tying into a belief that's actually a lie. That lie is probably from a storage tank, a negative storage tank of past experiences and beliefs that I need to unpack and drain. If I can do this alone, great. If not, I seek out help to help me drain my storage tanks of memories, experiences, beliefs that are lies, that escalate me to feel like it's a bear when it's not a bear. Now, if it's really a bear, then you want to fight and do whatever you need to.
But if it feels like an emotional bear or a social media bear.
The chances are emotional bear. Let me go with an example there real quick, scripturally.
Yes.
Okay. I love the scripture that death wears thy sting. I love that. But it doesn't make sense to me on some levels until I make a subtle adjustment.
Okay.
Death wears thy sting is talking about our finite being. Death.
What we will actually experience.
Yep. We're going for eternal. So where is it? But now let's change that even a little more in a finite way. Like we're talking about the brain. So let's add to it. Rejection. Where is thy sting? Abandonment. Where is thy sting? Failure. Insecurity. All of these lose power when we realize our soul is strong enough.
Okay.
Because that's finite. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But where is thy sting is more than just about death. It's about all the finite things of this world. Do not have the power over me. Now, that's a balancing act between the finite and the infinite, because we have to take care of our finite body and our finite reactions. But our infinite, our soul is the stronger, needs to be the stronger. But that's a balancing act. And like I said, that's for another time. We're really looking at the finite side. But I'm emphasizing that what we're doing is learning that the finite side, death, rejection, abandonment, where is thy sting? Because they are none of them truly, ultimately an eternal bear. Because God has conquered that grizzly. So that's at the ultimate level. And yet, welcome the human race. I am constantly having to fight this and work through this. And I will till I die because I'm part of this world.
Right.
So I'm always going to fight this bear on earth, emotionally or otherwise.
Even if it's a gummy bear.
Even if it's a gummy bear, I'm going to fight this bear.
You told me about that before. You were like, it's a gummy bear, Jamie. Okay.
Now, the fourth phase.
Yes.
And if you have questions, again, go. But you recognize your reactions, 1. 2 is the reality. Is it a bear? 3 is relax, deep breathing, remind that God is with me. It's not a bear. Then 4, you realize that your brain has re-engaged, because when you're escalated and you're in reactive mode, your brain starts to shut down and go into tunnel vision.
Oh,
and it doesn't process information.
Been there. Yep.
So when we get back and our brain is re-engaged, all brain is functioning. We now are back in and we're able to access the brain and all of it. And at that point, we're able to access our soul. When we access our soul, that's where we get discernment and wisdom. Now we can go back to the situation, whether it's a current situation, and deal with it with all of our faculties, our soul and our brain and all of our processing capability. If we can go back to our history, our personality, our current life stressors, and deal with them when we've re-engaged all brain functions. And we've widened it from a tunnel vision to a full peripheral vision of life.
Yeah. That's hard.
Now, every phase along the way, this is one for you that you have to practice. Dustin does too, frankly, but it's this. Every step, when I first start to recognize that I have a reaction, whether it's anger or frustration or beating myself up, when I recognize it, I need to do the fifth step, and that's rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always, always rejoice. Now, the rejoicing is to say, wow, I recognize this. Good job. This is the beginning. This is the start. Now, in science, what they find when you rejoice that way and celebrate, you are building a positive neural pathway.
Yep.
The more positive neural pathways you are, the more you can balance when you get escalated.
Okay. And is this what you did with me with the EMDR?
Yes.
Okay.
The EMDR was doing two things. One is it worked on your negative storage tanks to drain them and the traumas in the past. And we're feeling some positive storage tanks or positive neural pathways, so that you had access to those for your source of energy, that you are a loved person. You are intelligent. You are capable. God made you and said it is good. So we're rejoicing first that we even recognize that we had reactions. Negative or positive. Let's recognize it. Rejoice at that. Second, rejoice that we're understanding, there's add-ons. It's not a bear. And
but it's
that
still
we're relaxing.
So hard, and it feels
is
like
hard.
A bear.
Well, in this world of chaos, Satan's goal is to keep everything chaotic, to keep us on edge. Because the more we're on edge, the more our brain is escalated, the less we access our soul. And the less we find peace.
Geez. I feel like that is like the story of the time.
It is the story of the time. And it is what we're fighting. And that's exactly his goal, his purpose: create chaos, create uncertainty, create anxiety. The more the anxiety, the higher our escalation, the less we can go to re-engage.
The soul. How do we strengthen the soul? Like, how do we get that strong?
Oh, that's a great question that can take a long time, but I'll give you one quick short version.
Okay.
And it's just simply spiritual disciplines. The spiritual
So this
disciplines.
Is the spiritual side of us.
Yes.
This isn't the practical breathing and recognizing this.
That helps some.
Right. But that's the finite side. Is that what you were saying? Right.
Yes.
And then this is the side that taps into like the
spiritual
holy.
Disciplines. Let's just take one for a second real quick. And that's fasting. Fasting, what it does is it's saying to the body, you don't own me. Your brain, the brain,
so it's telling the brain that too.
It's telling the brain, all the finite side, you don't own me. And what it's doing is if we do fasting well, we're concentrating on the soul, the eternal side. So we're having a spiritual discussion with God. We're reading the Bible, filling our minds with good things. We're hearing the music, worship. We're looking at our personalities and saying, God, this is how you made me. We're looking at our passions in our heart that he's placed there. And those are the four parts that make up the soul. So if you're fasting, you are feeding your soul and you are telling your finite side, you do not own me.
Oh, man, that's so good.
I'm a child of God.
That's the
you
best description of fasting I've ever heard.
And that's with all the spiritual disciplines. Some of them focus more on feeding spiritual direction, may feed us on focusing on scripture and sitting and pondering it. That's feeding the soul. So we could talk on that for an hour as well.
Yeah.
The fifth phase of rejoicing needs to be done during each of the other phases and especially afterwards, and to rejoice, celebrate, and at all times be celebrating. God is with me. I'm not alone. Jamie and I are together. Dustin and I are together. We have family. We have a church fellowship. We have all these things. Let's celebrate that we're not alone on this chaos of earth. We're not alone in this finite moments. We are with someone and we're joining with them to do this war and this battle. So as we rejoice, we're building positive neural pathways. We're building our tanks that we can access when we are triggered, when we are escalated.
Because we will be triggered.
Okay, so let me tell you my example, which I don't remember if I told you one of them. I have many. My kids have
Is this the
many.
golf?
The golf would be one, but I'm going to tell a different
tell me a
one.
different one. Okay, this will be new then.
Well, it may not be. You may know this. I was driving a car. It was one of my first times I had one of my nicest cars. I was real proud of it. I was going around a corner of us after stopping at a stoplight, and a homeless guy had a pizza that he bought, a piece of pizza from 7-Eleven, and he threw it on my car. Now, my immediate reaction, being a manic, high-energy, extrovert, wrestler, football player, and ex-Army guy, I all of a sudden pulled my car into the parking lot and got out ready to fight him. And this was only about 10 years ago. My brain went into danger, fight. So I went into my protective reaction. He went running across the street. And as I did these steps and I stopped and I took stock of my emotions, my thoughts, and my feelings. And I said, is it a bear? It's a piece of pizza on my car. I can wash it off. But my reactions were like it was a bear, as if my car was destroyed. And the reality is, even if it had a dent, it wouldn't have mattered. Life wasn't at stake here. But my stopping, I could have hit him, hurt him. He could have hit me. I could have got hurt. For what? A piece of pizza on the car. Now, was it wrong that he threw the pizza? Sure.
Yeah.
But do I need to escalate to that level? So on the way home, I started visualizing reacting a different way. So I started training my brain to go to a
Is this the neural pathway thing?
Yes.
So you, instead of being triggered and going down that path,
the negative one,
you start to train your brain in positive. Okay. So
exactly. In positive.
Yep,
exactly.
Okay.
So what I did is I visualized as he threw the pizza that I just smiled and looked at him and bought him another piece of pizza. That instead I drove off and washed the car. That I started wondering, I wonder what's going on in his life. I wonder what's happening that's so bad. As I was doing that, I was calming my brain and retraining it to look at the positive sides. And I started rejoicing that I have my wife that loves me. I have a nice car. I'm going to a home. I have family and friends who love me. I like what I'm doing. Wow, am I blessed or what? And a piece of pizza was nothing.
And honestly, Randy, did that work?
Yes.
It worked.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Is it not the simplest things that we've known or should know our whole life?
It is.
That are the answers.
It's what we practice if we do it well with our kids. Our kid gets escalated because they want a cookie and they're 2-3 years old and they have a 2-year-old tantrum. Anyone that's raised kids and knows what terrible twos are, they know what a kid can do, screaming, I want my cookie. I want it.
Yep.
The brain is registering danger. I will die if I don't have my cookie. If we as parents say, stop your crying, we actually are filling their bucket of negative experiences and danger. If on the other hand, we say, oh, you want this cookie? It would taste so good, wouldn't it? Oh, it would be so tasty if you had this cookie. You really, really want it, and it hurts to not have it, huh? I'm helping them identify their emotions, their reactions.
Oh my goodness, this is so good. This plays into marriage, which we're going to do next time. This, because we've talked about this a lot with you, is just sitting with someone.
Yes, it's sitting in what their reality is, their emotions, and then add reality.
Add reality. Okay, yeah. So
with the
you
baby,
add reality with. That's so sad that you can't have the cookie. What's the reality part?
Yeah. And the second part of it is, but no, you cannot have it. I know
but that's so
want
sad.
it.
But it's so sad,
so
and I'm so
sad.
sorry
And
for
you
you.
can't have
Yeah.
it.
Okay, yeah. Oh man, it's so healthy. Yeah.
So the brain,
good.
they start learning that they can actually manage the escalations.
Oh, yeah.
And when they do that, then they can grow to learn how to manage the brain reactions and know they're loved when I say no. Because many of us, if we hear a no from someone or a disagreement,
rejection, not love.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a bear.
It's
for
a bear.
Our brain reaction when it's not a bear.
No. Wow.
But we haven't learned from all the way back to the cookie. We haven't learned some way. We built these storage tanks of negative and we're drawing on those and we're feeling like when you tell me no, that it's the same as the cookie when mom yelled at me. When they said, grow up. Now.
Stop crying.
Stop crying. All of those can be healed. Every one of those. God's made us so beautifully that as a parent, I've yelled at my kids. They will tell you I am not a perfect person, but all those can be healed. God's made us so beautifully that if we go own it, if we go and care for one another, we can go through these steps, recognize our own reaction, their reaction, love on them. It's not a bear. We're together. Let's take a breath. Let's hold each other. I'm sorry I caused this. Apologies and sorrow heals a lot of those wounds in itself of the traumas.
And I hear you saying our responsibility is also to know when we are, would projection be the right word?
Yes.
When we are projecting something that someone else did.
Yes.
Right? And that has, okay, so I know we only have a couple more minutes. Can you explain to me why you never asked for specifics about what I felt were important traumas? Because really I know that was on purpose, right?
Yes.
Because you weren't about to go into like every single detail of like my sadness, right?
Correct.
And so
Correct.
I just want to hear from you, like why and what like the reason behind your approach with me, because it worked and it's working and I love it, but it wasn't what I expected.
Well, we can go into all details, but sometimes going into the details will re-traumatize someone. And so it actually reinforces the storage tank instead of draining
the negative.
it.
Yep. Okay.
Yes. So what we're doing is we will instead, what I was doing is looking to say, okay, what is it now? Let's build some of these skills. And as you build them, some of those storage tanks will be drained on their own and we don't even need to ever deal with them because they're already being healed.
Yep.
The same as a lot of those storage tanks were built by, generalizations.
Okay.
So the dog that bit me, now I'm afraid of a squirrel. That's a generalization that now I'm afraid of anything that shows its teeth.
Right.
Parent yells at me, I'm afraid of authority figures.
Right.
We generalize
scared of anything
outward.
on four legs.
Anything on four legs.
Right.
That's exactly
We'll
right.
just start to go nuts on it. Yep.
Well, the reverse is true. When we're shown grace and love, we start being healed. And we don't have to talk all the way back to the little dog that bit us because as we start getting healed, it starts taking those and draining that storage tank, building a positive storage tank that says, wait, I'm strong enough. I'm an adult. I can go up to that dog and pet it. I can talk back to that adult person who yelled at me. I'm the same age as the adult that used to yell at me. So we can get to the reality and it actually generalizes out in a healing way, just like it went in a pathology way, dysfunctional way, in a danger way.
Yep.
So it's the same thing in reverse. So
good.
Now, as we go along as a therapist, what I would do with you or with anyone is we go along. If you're still hindered in life as we're doing this, then we'll look and say, okay, what's hindering you and causing
It's not like you're unwilling to go there, but that's not where you start. And I love that because you, like you said to me, there's going to be more of this.
Yes.
You're in the business of what you've been through.
Yes.
So instead of rehashing every horrible thing you've ever felt, let's figure out a way to get your soul strong.
Yes.
So that you can manage it.
That's right. And manage your finite side.
Yes, the finite side. Yes. Oh.
And as you manage that, if there's things that are hindering you from managing, then we'll take those individual cases and look to see if it's a trauma, learning. What is it that's causing you as you build your skills and your habits? What's stopping you? What's hindering you? Then we'll go look. But a lot of times it can generalize out in a positive way and heal itself. So I don't have to worry about it.
And Dustin just texted me and he said, tell Randy hi. And that we miss him. Can't wait to come down and see you again soon.
Wave at him for me. Give him a hug. That's better.
I will. But you've really been a game changer for us and for me. And I just appreciate your unique approach to all this. Thank you, Randy.
Blessings on you. Thank you. And back at you, and love you guys. So
you're the best.
Blessings on you, and it'll be fun.
See you soon.
Blessings. Bye.